Attention, fans of Unfinished Business Television. We're thrilled to announce our proud partnership with Super 7, the ultimate destination for collectors and pop culture enthusiasts alike. When you shop at Super 7, you're not just getting amazing collectibles, you're supporting us. Use our exclusive link, super7.com/AJEPYX, and remember to enter the promo code AJEPYX at checkout. Your purchases help us bring you even better content, sharper production, and the quality you deserve. So what are you waiting for? Visit super74.com/AJEPYX today. Use promo code AJEPYX, and let's keep the good times rolling here at Unfinished Business Television.
Hola, folks. Welcome to another episode of Unfinished Business Television. I am your host, Jeff Galshot, Unfinished B2, Projector J1, wherever you find me. You'll find me under one of those names. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
Happy overpriced candy season.
Yes, it is that time. It's Valentine's Day. So you know what you should buy your Valentine? Go to Super 7 and find out her favorite film. There will be definitely plenty of figurines, toys, maybe posters, whatever you're looking for the movie lover in your life. And even if it's, a side piece, hey, they got to be treated too. I'm talking male, female, trans, anybody. Hey, what you do and who you're attracted to is your choice. But getting back to the subject of the show, because you're wondering, why is he rambling? This is the episode you've been waiting for ever since last year. It is Jeff and Andre's top 10 movies of 2024, or at least our favorite. So don't be like, hey, that wasn't a critical hit. Yeah, but you know what? We liked it. So, let's start this off. We'll be counting down from 10 to 1. Andre, what was your number 10 movie of 2024?
Well, I prefaced my list first by saying that it is going to be a mix of the popular Oscar season films and a couple of blockbusters and a few gems we may have reviewed that might surprise some people that made my top 10. So, my number 10 film is Saturday Night. I just really enjoyed the performances, the chaos, the camera work that Jason Reitman did to capture that chaos in that one night. Granted, I think some of it was a little bit over the top, but you had a lot of memorable scenes in there, especially the J.K. Simmons parts. And most of all, I think that guys like Dylan O'Brien and the actor who played Chevy Chase really nailed those original not ready for prime time players. And it's a sad shame that unfortunately the marketing didn't do justice to making this film worthy of an Oscar season picture, because I really thought they did a fantastic job overall with the production design, with the aesthetics, and just, overall capturing that period and the culture clash that was going on at NBC. So to me, that made my number 10.
Okay, I mean, I dug the film's frantic energy. I liked the performances, but it didn't even really make my top 20 list, maybe an honorable mention. But I'm not saying that it's a bad film. I know right now it's available on Netflix for anybody who missed it in theaters, and I think it's definitely worth a watch. Um, my number 10 movie is Long Legs by Osgood Perkins. Uh, it's basically a serial killer drama where the rookie FBI agent might have ties into this case that she didn't even know about, and it has, of course, a scene-stealing rock star role of Nicolas Cage. But what I liked about it is that even though going in, you feel like, okay, this is going to be like a Silence of the Lambs. This is going to be, some serial killer drama thriller. It's just so creepy watching the film. And, I feel like, especially as a film fan, it's so rare that you feel that with anything modern that when it's actually done well and done correct, it's just so noteworthy. And again, you'll never see the twists and turns coming. And, it's I guess it's kind of a major studio release, but there's so few characters in it that it's just it's mesmerizing what was able to be done with just so little. I mean, come on, Blair Underwood back on the big screen. Kieran Shirpka, who's like having a very busy 2024 with all the movies she was in, and this has like been one of the like notable roles of Makia Monroe that I haven't seen, in a while. I mean, she's been acting, but not in anything as noteworthy as, let's say, The Guest or It Follows. And now she has another bona fide like horror thriller classic, and so I really enjoyed it, and I definitely think if you haven't seen it and you're into horror or you're really into smart dramas, I would say definitely check out Longlegs. So, Andre, what is your number 9 movie? Wait, did you see Longlegs?
Oh yeah, yeah, we reviewed it, and I did like it mildly, but I didn't think it was terrible. I really liked that Nicolas Cage was creepy. I like the fact that Blair Underwood is in it, and I like that it was a very subtle movie. It was, a little bit slow, but it had a lot going on beneath the surface that I think made it worthwhile. It wasn't just like I thought it was gonna be like a straight detective thriller. No, there was a little bit more going on.
Okay. So sorry about that. So what is your number 9 movie? And
My number 9 was Late Night with the Devil. This was another one that I just even from the premise and casting David, however you say his last name, Drakimian or forgive me, sir. Yeah, all the Nolan movies you've been in.
yeah.
Um, no, he was great. I mean, the whole concept of a '70s talk show and doing this bizarre, like, exorcism shit, I thought just the overall look of it, the creep factor, and the way it builds and builds, because 'cause you're waiting for the big reveal to happen, and when you get it, yeah, there's a little bit of CG and stuff done, but it's done to where they really did sell the effects in that 3rd act and made it creepy and made it disturbing. And I like the back and forth where you have, the shots of the show, but then you have like the behind the scenes backstage all in black and white showing what's really going on. And now there's like, oh, this is not on the run sheet, like the guy who opens up his stomach and then it's like that really didn't happen or did it happen? So the whole psychology of it, how it plays with your head till the very end, I thought I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Okay. It is not on my top 20 list. It is an honorable mention. I enjoyed the film. I guess for me, I just felt like it was a little familiar of, doing the whole live show and all this happening. But then, you know, they put in the more backstage stuff, which usually isn't in these types of films. And I like the implications it kind of made to the host and how this might be part of something he's involved in. So I liked those aspects of it. But I mean, it's again not a bad movie. I have nothing really too negative to say about it. I like I said, I think it's worth watching, and if you guys can catch it on streaming, I'm sure it's somewhere where you don't.
Shudder?
Oh yes, it's on Shutter. So if you have Shutter, you should have access to it. Um, I like I said, I really enjoyed it, but it was, I guess, it offered a few things I didn't expect, but for most part, for me, it was like, this is a little familiar. So that is why it did not make necessarily my top list. My number 9 film, interestingly enough, is similar. I picked Conclave. It's about where the priests are trying to pick a new pope after the current one dies. And it's even though it's a drama, it's played like a thriller because Ray Fiennes' character is really, I guess, leading the way to deciding who's going to be the new pope, and all of them, have their own ulterior motives. It's like a political thriller almost because everybody has their little secrets. Some are good men but are hiding things. Some are dastardly and will go back to the old days. And Ray Fiennes just takes hold of the role because you can see at times him being pious and envious, but also at heart wanting to do the right thing. And I mean, come on, Stanley Tucci looks sharp in a Grease outfit. I didn't expect John Lithgow to be in the movie as one of the villains of the film. I think it's costume design, cinematography, all that production design, everything is beautiful, looks beautiful, and it's the rare thriller, uh, even though it's a drama, that is actually PG-13. So, there's like no cursing, there's no sex, there's no violence really, unless you count words. But well written words. Um Even though it's my number 9 movie, my Oscars gripe. I love Isabel Rossellini, but she's in the background of most scenes, doesn't say anything, only has 2 scenes where she really speaks, and I'm just like, "That's a Best Supporting Actress Oscar nominee?" So, I just felt like maybe since it was winning accolades, they were like, "Okay, let's put her in for Best Supporting Actress." But, I was really shocked at how much I enjoyed it because I will admit when I saw PG-13 and they say this is a thriller, I don't know. And I'm not anti-religious, but I'm not an atheist and I'm not agnostic. I'll just say that. But I just thought the film truly came alive, and I think maybe one of the reasons I also like it is that it's something that I would think would be boring if I watched this, and then I was shocked at how much I got into it and how excited I was watching it. So that is why number 9, Conclave, for me, with directed by Ed Edward Berger, I believe his name is. And by any chance, did you see Conclave?
I have not seen it because I just keep having disturbing images of priests and popes and stuff that apparently this movie doesn't really tackle.
It tackles it a little. Maybe I think that's some people's problems with it is that kind of glosses over those subjects rather than like being a deep investigation. But again, it's not that type of movie, and they don't have time. It's just like, hey, we got to pick a pope. People are getting pissed. So that is our number 9 pick. Now, Andre, what is your number 8 movie?
My number 8 is Love Lies Bleeding.
Wow. Oh, I did not expect you to pick that on your top 10. And
Really good, 80s set thriller. Kitty O'Brien is delish, even though I don't know what way she swings, but still, just the poster is what sold me on seeing this film. And yeah, it's just very imaginative in many respects. I still have my issues with the ending though, but I liked the violence factor. I liked Ed Harris's performance in there. And even Kristen Stewart was tolerable for what she had to do. So that was another one that really yeah, I really did enjoy this one.
um, it didn't make my top 10, but it almost did. It was my number 11 movie of the year. Love Lies Bleeding, that was one of the probably the best. Well, in the beginning of the year, it was my first film seeing in a theater. So I was just like blown away from it. Or blown away by it. But I admit I was like you, the Kristen Stewart factor. I was like, but she's starring in this. I don't know. But you know what? She's perfectly cast for once. This role truly did fit her. I liked that nobody was perfect, and considering what her character goes through, she's the best of her family, you know. You have Ed Harris rocking a mullet, even though he doesn't have any hair up front in the movie, but he's just like kicking ass in that 80s look. Dave Franco was the big surprise, playing basically playing a piece of shit, and how violent his comeuppance is in the film. I was thought they went there. I love the director Rose Glass because I loved her previous film. So, I was the perfect audience for this. Katie O'Brien, came out of nowhere with this performance, and it has its. I like that it has different things going on all at once. Like you said, has this magical realism. Like whenever she gets angry, and seems like she has superhuman strength, and she seems to grow even bigger, like the Hulk. I like that it's kind of like a crime thriller, with like trying to cover up these murders and stay away from the cops and her gangster father. And it's sort of a dark comedy. The character who has the crush on Kristen Stewart and her fate throughout the film.
Oh, yeah, how she screws her over.
Like that was the one part of the ending I didn't mind. When it's when they're driving away and she's still in the back of the truck. Yeah, I think it's a film a lot of people I don't know if they didn't hear about it or is being slept on, but it's a film that should be talked about more than it is, because I really enjoyed it. I don't know, me and my artsy fartsy kind of tendencies of movies. I don't know, maybe I was the perfect audience for this, but I definitely think more people should go out, check this film out, and spread word about it. Um, my number 8 movie is a French horror film, since we're going artsy fartsy, named Mads. It takes place in France. The film is made to look like it's done all in one shot, even though you could tell sometimes where there might be a cut. But basically, it's about I guess you call it an ensemble because it starts with one guy who kind of gets infected and it slowly overtakes the city, but he's going from party to party. And even though he's giving it to like his girlfriend or the girl who he's sleeping with on the side, they don't truly know what's going on because they're doing drugs and taking alcohol. So they don't know if this is a side effect or if they're hallucinating or if all of this is really happening. And it's just like from a technical point of view, it's a marvel of a film. And the acting point of view, especially the woman, I don't know her name, who plays the French guy's girlfriend, just her body contortions and her dramatic, acting as she's going through it and slowly realizing like this is like literally killing her and she wants to go back to her right state of mind but can't. This film is like I think this is a film that is kind of a sleeper because again, it's a foreign film, so a lot of people are like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not going to go see this." But no offense, maybe more people should have seen this rather than Amelia Perez. Just that, especially considering all the backlash Amelia Perez get. Um, by any chance, did you see Mads, Andre?
I never even heard of this movie.
Seriously? You didn't even hear of it? No. Okay, well, if you have Shudder, it's on there. Yeah, this was a late in the year film for me, and I didn't hear any, word of mouth. I just saw it and like decided to take a chance on it, and here it is now at my number 8. So, Andre, what is your number 7 favorite film of 2024?
My number 7 might shock people, Beverly Hills Cop XLF.
Wow.
So, I'm not gonna say this was the 4th movie I've been waiting for, but I think it's much better than Cop 3, and as I said, this one at least had some story progression, evolving Axel Foley, having the daughter get in trouble, and, you know, having the rift between Billy and Taggart, rest in peace, John Ashton, our friend, and, a lot of the nostalgia, a lot of the Easter eggs. Obviously, it is a legacy sequel, but thankfully not a legacy sequel where they're trying to pass the torch. They're not trying to make Joseph Gordon-Levitt become the new Axel Foley. No, this is pretty much, if anything, more of a direct sequel to the first film than it is as a follow-up to Cop 2 and 3. And again, my biggest gripe is just, Eddie, I think, is just half and half. There's moments where he is hilarious and he has the fire again. And then other times it's like, you're stealing cars, you're stealing vehicles. Clearly, you don't want to run. You don't want to get into a lot of action. And like, just rely on your stuntman. I know you're of a certain age, but come on, dude. I mean, I'm not expecting you to do all the stuff you did in Cop 3, but, you can throw a fist fight or, shoot up some cars. Like, why do you have to, like, slow yourself down like that? Like, oh, I don't want to do stuff Morgan Freeman's not going to do. So, there's that. And I love the soundtrack. So I think overall it was a fun time. It was a good nostalgia trip. Um, I personally think because they do have an option for a fifth movie, I think this should be it. I think this was as a nice bookend for the series.
I agree. I like the film. I can't, you know, honestly say it's on any of my lists though. But I did enjoy it for what it was. Rest in peace, John Ashton. So there's that emotional component to it, watching him on screen. But yeah, I'm just like I enjoyed it, but it just did not make my list. Sorry. Um, for my number 7 film, this might be the most shocking pick on this whole list. I picked Selma, with June Squibb and Richard Roundtree. I don't know what it is about that film. Like, going into it, I thought, okay, it'll be like older detective story getting revenge. But it really affected me emotionally watching it. It is all, like I just said, a detective film at heart. And, but it's got such wonderful characters in it that, are unfortunately seeming at the end of their lives, but they're still so full of life and, just adjusting to aging. And then, their kids not trusting their instincts, kind of treating them like children. And her only real connection is her grandson. And I like that even with the grandson storyline, he has a love interest, but we don't get into that in sidetrack. We stay within, focused on Thelma. And I still worry about, that older lady whose house they visit and all she watches is hummingbird videos and they're asking if she ate or anything. Like, somebody should really be watching that lady. And just the fact that Malcolm McDowell is the villain and he's up there in years and it's like nobody here can really get too physical because they're just so much older. It just has a charm. And it's like I understand it's whimsical, it's quirky, it's cutesy, but honestly, how many films are we getting like that are actually good and are not, stereotypical or playing to a certain audience? Like, I feel like anybody who has, grandparents or older people in their lives will be able to identify with a character in here, and also, maybe see like, oh my god, do I treat, like my mother, my grandparent, do I treat them like that? Like they don't know what they're doing. So I think it also creates empathy for everyone. Nobody is truly a villain. Even the villain has their own reason for what they're doing. So I really enjoyed that. And yeah, maybe it could be like an episode of Monk or a spinoff of Monk, but I really liked it. And I really wish June Squibb could have gotten a Best Actress nomination over some of the other people who were nominated. I'm not saying any names, but I mean, would Netflix be happier now if they would have been like, "Hey, maybe we should have put June Squibb instead of Carla Garcon for Amelia Perez, and now she's banned from even attending, or they banned her." I'm like, "Hey, if I got a ticket, I'm going. Fuck y'all." So, but that's my opinion. So that was my number 7 movie, and we reviewed it, so I know you've seen it. Anything you'd like to add about Thelma?
Well, I'll put it aside because I feel that I gave it a mild recommendation at the time, but even like what you said, I'm just thinking back about watching the film. There is an appreciation I have because, like, for my job recently, I wrote about the last movie star with Burt Reynolds and just feeling very sad because, the same deal. Like, he's playing a version of himself at his late stage of life, and all it is just him being sort of bitter and regretful about decisions he made, relationships that fell apart. And even though, like, it does end, like, on a upbeat note, it's still sad regardless, given that, that we would lose him later on. So I think Thelma was the kind of movie I sort of appreciate because it wasn't all that. Like, yeah, her children obviously treat her, June Squibb, as, they have to take care of her like their own child, and yet when she has to go find her grandson, it really does become like there's that spark that she needs to take action and do something. And certainly my standout is obviously Richard Roundtree, that having to be his last film, that he went out very strong in that.
Agreed. So Andre, what is your number 6 movie of 2024? Mm.
My number 6 goes into the documentary category, and that is Movie Pass Movie Crash.
Wow.
I think out of any documentary I've seen this year, in addition to a honorable mention I have, I think this one hit me the hardest, only because of the things that we talked about in the review of these 2 Black entrepreneurs who had a great idea, and then 2 illegitimate white dudes who had whatever, cred in the business, decide to take their idea and pervert it and basically bury it to the ground. And how angry I felt about that when it was over. Like, thank God those 2 guys ended up, one I think has been had a plea deal, so he's going to jail. The other guy, I think, also went to prison. And then obviously the 2 Black dudes, the one that bought it back and now is still running it. It was like a rise, fall, and a triumph type of tale. But just as I said, I think anybody that's in business, especially if you're African American, should see this film because it really does warn you about those pitfalls when it comes to, you have a great idea, but nobody takes you seriously because of your skin color. And then to try to have a white guy speak for you sometimes is not always the best idea. You have to have your own confidence in order to sell yourself.
Yeah. That movie made it to my honorable mention list, but I loved the documentary. I thought it was like hard hitting. Like they had that movie Dumb Money. I wish somebody would make kind of a film about like a feature film about this. And you could use your movie pass there because I think it's also kind of personal since we both were members of movie pass.
Mhm.
So it's like something you can identify with in a product that we actually use, especially for all those other film fans out there. Y'all know y'all had a and was using and abusing it when it was going down. So, luckily they didn't ask Dennis Rodman what he thought of the film. But yes, I am proud that it made your top 10. I'm ashamed it did not make mine because it really was a good film. My number 6. You might be shocked at how kind of low it is on my top 10, but I picked Anora. And, I am a big fan of Sean Baker. I love the film. I love the discussions the film brought up. And like I said, it's almost like a comedic version of Pretty Woman meets the nanny, but also it has these hard hitting scenes. And I like the fact that most of the cast is made up of actors you don't see every day. Some of them are not or not acting pretty much. Yeah, that's the life they lead. And I was happy it was a film where Mikey Madison did not get killed or set on fire at the end. She deserves her Best Actress nomination, especially, at her age being so young. I just wonder where does she go from here? Like what type of roles she'll be offered. But I loved everything about the film. I think the big discovery was I don't remember his name, but who played I guess kind of the thug lackey. Who
Oh, you're the guy that played the great.
Yeah, I think he was really the film's other big discovery because, I had never seen him personally in anything before. So seeing him in this film, you just think of him naturally as that character. And even though he's rough around the edges, he's charming and also seems to be out of all of them, maybe one of the smartest guys in the because, whereas mostly everybody else at some point becomes a comedic caricature for a scene or two. He's the only one who stays solid and is always himself throughout, other than our lead. Um, I just, like I said, I really enjoyed the film. It wasn't exactly what I expected, but it is probably Sean Baker's most mainstream film, considering we sat through Red Rocket. This was an easier sit and didn't feel as uncomfortable or icky watching the film. you know? So that is my number six. What did you, well, we reviewed it, but I guess remind people what you thought of Honora. And
Um, I don't know if I should because I rated it a lot higher.
mm, then we'll wait till we get to that on your list. So with our number six, now we're down to our top five, the big gun. Andre, what is your number five favorite film of 2024?
My number 5 is Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. I felt that, again, like Beverly Hills Cop, it was another like 30 some odd years to wait for a follow up, and I wasn't disappointed with it. Keaton still rocks. He didn't overdo it. Tim Burton, it's as close to old school Tim Burton as we're ever going to get. And I appreciate that fact. And again, Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Jenna Ortega was a great addition to the cast. I thought Justin Theroux was hilarious. And, expanding the afterlife as they did was also really cool, especially the Soul Train bit. And I love the psychiatrist scene with Beetlejuice and Justin Theroux and Winona Ryder and the baby juice thing, that really like had me rolling down the floors laughing. But again, it is flawed. I think it is overstuffed with too many subplots, which I feel was the result of having multiple drafts kind of thrown together. And maybe Tim Burton's attitude was, well, I don't know if we're going to do a third one, so let's just say everything we need to say now so we never have to come back to this. And maybe even the third act was a little bit clunky, especially the MacArthur Park sequence, which I think they were trying to make a nod to the musical. That's why they did it. But overall, fun time, not great. It doesn't hold a candle to the original, but it's a good companion piece, and certainly just I appreciate it. And I'm glad they didn't like try to like say, oh yeah, well we have the cartoon, so let's make it like that. No, let's keep it pretty much to this tone of the original.
Well, I will say it did not make my list at all. It's a film, like you said, I appreciate it for what it is, but it was just too flawed for me to find it that special that it's like one of the best films of the year. If Tim Burton's going back to his old style, let's go back to Ed Wood too. Then, I want to see something more along the lines of that. But like I said, it had the practical effects. I I find it interesting that he was like, "Oh, I'm not Hollywood. I'm not Disney. I'm going, back to my roots." But no offense, maybe he's been making big budget films for so long that I don't think he can go back to his roots or be as creative as maybe he wants to. Because I'm like, well, half of this movie is filled with big names, so it's not like this is independent. The baby juice. I'm sorry, it reeks of a little bit of Dead Alive, but also, Chucky movies. So that was my main thing with that. Everything works in its own way except for, the inclusion of his girlfriend, Monica Bellucci, dressed as the corpse bride, but she's nice to look at, so at least he also gave eye candy, and I liked the way he worked around not being able to catch Jeffrey Jones. But yet keep that character pure of heart, So it's not like, oh, he was a bastard and then he ran out on his family or something like that. So I appreciate it for what it is, and like you said, it's a legacy sequel. And like I said, I can sit there, watch it, have a smirk, but like I said, it doesn't hold a candle to the original. And really, I can just sit there and be like, okay, it's okay. It's not great, but at least it gives me an ending, or find out whatever happened to. So that's how I viewed it. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. And, and I will say, Michael Keaton, though a little slower, still had the top, as Beetlejuice. My number five movie, this shouldn't be a shock. It should be shocking how low it is on the list, though. The Substance, with Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, and written and directed by Coralie Farge. We reviewed it recently, actually, but just to reiterate, it is one of the most original films of the year. Even though I know people critique it, they're like, "Oh, it's not subtle." so? Does everything have to be subtle? I mean, yes, it gets to its point mainly because if it didn't, half of you would be like, "What is it really about?" I think Demi Moore gives a career best performance. It also helps right now that I'm reading her autobiography that she put out a few years ago. Margaret Qualley is really good, even though, most of her role is a little more silent, as the ingenue who then starts falling apart and is greedy and jealous. I think not enough people, maybe because he's a Trump fan. I don't think people are giving Dennis Quaid enough credit. He came in last minute because Ray Liotta, who originally had the role, passed away. Rest in peace. But I thought he did good. He was so good. Maybe that's what it takes a Trump loving actor to play, some person, I guess, representation of the Hollywood industry where he is old himself, but has the nerve to judge women. Well, yeah, yo, you're 50, you're out of bounds. What the fuck? And eat the most grossest thing of shrimp eating I've ever seen on screen. You would make even Bubba from Forrest Gump like, maybe I should think of a different business. But I really love the film. Um, I know it is on video on demand, but this is a film you have to watch with people because half the fun of the film is seeing people's reaction to where it's going. Because they're like, "Oh no, I don't believe that." The only thing that was unbelievable to me in the film was that people walking in Los Angeles. I'm like, yeah, guys, they usually use cars or bikes. I don't know if I believe that. And I understand they want to be secretive, but why would you put, the secret deposit boxes in such a place that looks so unsafe to go get it, you know? But maybe that was the secret. What's ugly really has something beautiful in it, and what is beautiful has ugliness in its heart. So that was my number 5 movie. Is it on your list somewhere?
I ranked it higher.
Okay, so I won't ask you until we get to it on your list. So we're going to move on to the number 4 movie. Andre, what is your number 4 movie of 2024? Mm.
My number 4 movie is Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, of
Wow.
course, it yeah, I know there might be people that say, "Oh, yeah, Marvel thing, and it's just a bunch of Easter eggs." Yeah, sure, it's a bunch of Easter eggs and a bunch of nostalgia. I still like it, fuck it. I had fun, and it's what Marvel needed after a string of very depressing films outside of Spider-Man: No Way Home and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Ryan Reynolds still delivers, what regardless of how you feel about him today, and Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine is exactly what I've been waiting to see, him in the MCU as Wolverine. The cameos were worked. Some cameos I wish they had, but, I understand time and, scheduling and other stuff, maybe secrets that they're saving for later on. Um, Not to say it was just a very good time. It's what they needed, an R-rated shot in the arm, and, they didn't pull back too much despite being under Disney. So, yeah, I had a good time. I don't think it's the best Deadpool movie. I mean, the first one, I think is just so groundbreaking. That's just such a high bar to follow on. And it's not Marvel's best, but certainly of this particular post Endgame phase we're in, I think it's definitely one of the better movies.
It almost made my top 20. It's an honorable mention. I don't think I can put any movie directed by Sean Levy on my top 20 list of any year. Maybe he'll shock me. But I like I said, I had a good time watching it, in the theater. It was fun. It was funny. I don't know if it's maybe for some people it might be a little too inside baseball with, some of the jokes. Like if you haven't seen any of the previous movies, you might be wondering, huh? Or if you haven't seen any of the previous characters' movies, some of these jokes might fly over your head. But I think, like you said, I think it's a good time. It's one of the better late end Marvel movies that, I think, and like you said, it gives at the series and Marvel films kind of a shot in the arm that it needs. Like, yeah, remember guys, these films used to be fun. Not everything had to be like so sad, depressing, or just feel like filler, Captain America. So, so I agree with you there, even though it did not make, my top list. My number 4 movie is The Brutalist, with Adrian Brody, and directed by Brady Corbett. Um, yeah, okay, it's a long movie with an intermission, but I didn't really notice, except for the intermission. But like, I didn't have to go to the bathroom during it. I was never bored necessarily. I think it has an excellent score. Um, it's a beautiful film to look at and feel, and it does offer at least one big surprise. But also, I looked at the film as being about movie making, even though it's about an architect, and his dream building. But all the work that goes into it, designing a film, when you're in production, like sometimes tragedies befall, or all the individual little problems that might happen that can stall the project, or you have to, I guess, kind of rewrite it to what you can do and what you can't do, and just all the hands that are in it, but it's supposed to be your vision that you're supposed to be guiding it, even despite your own personal problems or anything that's going on in your life. You have to kind of polarize it or put it on hold because your passion is in your artwork or your work. So I really appreciated that. Guy Pearce is making an acting comeback in that film. He's great in it. Alessandro Nivola continues his roles of, I guess, good-looking general guys that are unlikable. Felicity Jones finally finds a role, I guess, worthy of her. I don't even think I've seen her since what, Rogue One? Is anything really? So I really like the film, and I think it is of a very powerful film, especially for Brady Corbett, who's a former actor. He was in 13 and Funny Games, the American version, among other films. And it's just like, you made your masterpiece with your third film, and it's not as pretentious as your first two, so it's a little pretentious, but it's not as. Um, did you see The Brutalist yet?
No.
Okay, so yes, definitely go out there. Y'all go see The Brutalist. It's a good time. Don't bring it. Just don't drink a big soda. You can do it. I know you can. Y'all binge watch television shows enough. You can sit through a 3-hour movie, or really 4 hour. So next up, we are at number 3. Uh, what is your number 3 film of 2024?
So my number 3 is Nora.
Okay.
I am glad I did not see the trailer for this movie before I saw it with you and our friend Sylvia. Hello. This really was the darker version of Pretty Woman that they didn't make back in 1990, because this whole film is this fantasy fulfillment wish of this girl who thinks that getting with this rich boy is gonna make her life better, that she's up and got her shit together, that she could quit her job, move out of her sister's apartment, and then I'm thinking it's gonna get sinister, and instead it just gets stupid, but in the way that made the most sense. That the dude's a pussy who doesn't give a shit about her. He'd rather play video games and fuck all day rather than actually like have a relationship or to be a quote unquote provider. And the Igor character, I mean, I kind of was like at times saying to myself, please don't have these two hook up. But going back, it makes sense for the story when you really start to see how this was the only guy that, even as they were holding this girl down and trying to find the rich kid, that somehow he's the only person that has a soft side to any of the shit that's going on, especially when the Godfather is acting like a deranged T-1000, like he's unstoppable in his mission to find this kid and end this marriage. And it just comes off hilarious and real, and I think that's what really made it so um, engaging to watch. I never felt bored because I was always like, pins and needles, where's this going? And even by the end, you really do grow to hate the rich kid. You know, I mean, I didn't like him right from the start, but he really is like I've seen these type of personalities before, and they're not good to get along with. So yeah, this is really good. I thought Mikey Madison absolutely deserves an Oscar nomination. You know, our friend Aisha Wax should have played that part. It's tailor made for her. And I personally think it's Sean Baker's best film out of anything that I've seen of his work.
Okay. I already said what I had to say about Nora earlier, but I like your points that you're making. My number three film, Dune Part Two, actually. Now, I have gone on record as saying I don't know half of what was going on watching this film. I don't know what the hell the spice and you know this guy's the prophet, and then all this and that, but I will say it is a fucking beautiful looking film. I understood most of the relationships in the film or how everybody, I guess, relates to one another, even if I didn't understand the overall purpose. I was happy to see, Austin Butler with no Elvis accent or no posing. so really trying to actually act, even though his role was more physical. Um, the Spice Lords. I mean, come on, it had Christopher Walken as a kid. Uh, you know, I love that part. I love the action sequences. They still, even though I still don't understand how sandworms work, but they even made the writing of those like so dramatic and character building. And I understand this is a prophet story and he's probably a false prophet. But how in the beginning he starts off as kind of like more innocent and wanting to help the people. Then he's a victim of believing his own hype. And I really enjoyed the film. Again, like I said, I couldn't explain the movie to you or what's really going on, but I enjoyed it immensely. We got our glimpses of Anya Taylor Joy in the film too. I'm sure she plays a bigger role. And another role where a certain actress is really like working those looks. Mm, I can't. I remember her name now. um,
Oh, Florence Pugh.
yes, Lawrence View. I was like, whoa, another role in which he's like blazing in this film. I mean, Zendaya, of course, is cuter, but I don't look at her like that. So I'm just like, and Zendaya definitely showing off. Where's my action franchise? I hope she doesn't end up like Angela Bassett, where she just keeps waiting and waiting and waiting, and then once she's 60, it's like, hey, want to play a supporting character in one? you know. So I definitely think well, not Luc Besson because he's got his own problems, but somebody like Luc Besson write an action film role for her, where she can use her acting talent, her looks, and you know, just the phenomena that is Zendaya, and give her, that perfect role. Andre, what did you think? Well, even though we reviewed it, what did you think of Dune Part Two?
I rated it higher.
Okay, so we only have two choices left, so it's got to be one of the two. So in the top spots. So Andre, what is your number two movie of the year?
It was a tough call, but number 2 is The Substance.
Wow, I wish I had rated it higher, but go on.
Yeah, no, the Substance was just a huge surprise for me, not because Demi Moore is naked in it, but the fact that it's got its surface level theme of vanity and ageism in Hollywood, but then there's also a lot more going on than that, which I really do appreciate. Something about birth and death that I think one of my friends actually brought up the other day that kind of permeates throughout the story. Just a way that, you're born, but then you get discarded and just and especially not just in Hollywood, but just in general, how society treats its elderly versus when you're young and you're in your prime. And as I said, just what the direction of it, especially when it gets to the end, It's John Carpenter, it's David Lynch, it's David Cronenberg, all wrapped up into one, and I was not disappointed. I was like, "Thank God there's real special effects, there's real makeup work, and a very bloody finale that made perfect sense to do, and for Demi Moore to take the risk that she did." And I don't wanna dismiss, Miss Qualley also, who was also excellent in it, but, this is definitely Demi's movie, her time. And yeah, Dennis Quaid, say what you will about the guy, obviously his politics are between him and God, but I thought he was excellent playing the sleazy, can I say Vince McMahon type? You know, just like
Man,
yeah, he's total misogynist in his bow tie and creepy eating habits. He should play that more often. It suits him at his age. Just don't put him with his son, who's more of a Democrat. But otherwise, I thought this was excellent. Demi definitely deserves the Oscar. It's a shame she doesn't get it, but it's a tough part given that it's one character played by two different people. And I think it's a movie that's going to continue to get talk in years to come. And don't be surprised if McFarlane Toys makes an action figure. But we have to support Super 7. If they do it, I'll buy it.
same here. I I loved watching the behind the scenes on the film with the blood holes for the audience, and I mean, I like I said, it was my number 5 film, so I don't really have much to add. I just wish more people would go out and see it and not talk about the idea of it, more actually go watch, you know? I think Coralie Forget is going to have a long career as a director because obviously she stuck to her vision. She turned down Black Widow, the movie, to make this. So she took on this project so she could have final cut versus obviously a very easy paycheck that she could have taken. So even that's inspiring in itself. My number 2 movie is Nickel Boys, based on the novel by Colson Whitehead. Unfortunately, most people haven't seen it. That's the problem because its marketing is just effed up in general because it started off from the New York Film Festival being the belle of the ball, and then it barely is released. And, we're in Black History Month, and most people still don't know where to find it or if it's even out. And it's just like it got Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay nomination, but it could have gotten another 5 nominations. It's got the best cinematography of any film this year, and it didn't get nominated for it. It offers a surprise for all of the people who might think, oh, another Black trauma tale, but it also tells, it talks about Jim Crow. It talks about Black families. It talks about creativity, paying for the crimes of the past. It's just an all around excellent movie. And even though Anjanae Ellis Taylor didn't get nominated for Origin 2 years ago, that everybody thought was a shoe in, she definitely should have got Best Supporting Actress nomination again for this film because she's really like the heart of this film because playing the main character's grandmother and she's just such a caring soul and I it's hard to talk about this film without spoiling it. So that's why I'm like, just go out and see it. At times it's a buddy film. It's a coming of age story of something of hardships that nobody should have to face in their lifetime. Definitely just go see it wherever you can find it and when you can find it. Cause it was almost my number 1 movie. I really wish it could have been. But I love this film so much. I'm going to be talking about it for ages. It's going to be one of those where I'm always like, have you seen? And it's just Black filmmaking at its finest. And it's not from a director you've already heard of, like a Spike Lee or a John Singleton. It's somebody you've never heard of who's only really made one film before, and it was a documentary. So this film is just so visual, so beautiful, and you know, uh, I can't say enough good things about this film. So that is my number 2 movie, Nickel Boys, and I know you haven't seen it yet. And
I want to, though.
okay, and well, we've reached the finale of our list. Andre, what is your number one movie of 2024?
No surprise, Doom Part 2,
No.
because it was, I think, the way Return of the King was for the Lord of the Rings. This was like the celebratory follow up that, given that, they didn't have the same shooting schedule, but I mean, the consistency with the actors and the director, Denis Villeneuve. I just felt this was a triumph for finally getting Dune correct after, the ill-fated David Lynch movie, rest in peace. This was something that I felt for once I could understand what's happening. Like you said, I can understand the relationships. Everybody's spot on in their roles, the effects, the visuals. It probably helped that I had that Dune spice punch from AMC to help me concentrate, because that was probably the one way to really follow everything that was going on. But, I think it just I never read the Frank Herbert novels, but
Yeah.
I felt that this had a good balance of action, drama, solid performances, solid storytelling, and just the kind of movie making that we're missing these days. And the fact that they were able to pull it off so successfully with the right director and the right cast. I mean, I have to give it to this particular movie out of anything that I've seen of last year. And last year was a very weak year for movies. I cannot lie. There wasn't a whole lot that, some films I probably could have rated a little bit higher, but there wasn't a whole lot. So I think this really, as far as like, I think the closest thing to perfection for me, it's Dune.
Um, well, I've said my piece on Dune 2. My thing with Dune 2, I think what also shocked me so much about it was I wasn't the biggest Dune 1 fan. I didn't hate it, but it was like, oh, this is thankfully this one moves. And I would say, oh, you've got to see Dune 1 to really understand Dune 2, but considering I didn't understand Dune 2 anyway, it's like it doesn't really matter. But I really enjoyed it, and I think it is an awesome film. And it's the rare Denis Villeneuve film that I did not fall asleep watching. So that's always a plus for him, because I do really think that he is a great filmmaker. Um, and Canadian. Uh, so my number one film, like, come on, guys. I've been touting this film ever since I saw it. You guys probably already know. We've reviewed it. It never moved from my number one once I saw it. And it is I Saw the TV Glow. I love this film so much. Maybe it taps into something within me getting older and being kind of addicted to certain television shows or movies and never quite letting go. And maybe it affects you in certain ways. I understand that the story is more supposed to be obviously about the director and their journey from being or accepting that they were trans. But I feel like the film does work on that level. But everybody who has seen this film, I think, can identify with some part of it. So it's like it reminds me. I don't mean to be mean to other films that came out this year, but it reminds me what coming of age films were good. Where they actually made you feel something. And this is aided by just the whole surreal aspect of the visuals and even the cameos from stars that would be probably cast on the show that the character is obsessed with. Amber Benson, Pete and Pete, So I'm just like I was just continuously blown away by this film. I can't say enough good things. It got robbed at award shows because it got nothing, and it's got a kick-ass soundtrack of original music and score. I liked both. I just like I said, I can't say enough good things, and I look forward to the director's next film, and I loved, their previous film, before this, and so, let's all meet at the World's Fair. Um, and Andre, I know we reviewed it, but what did you think of I Saw the TV Glow?
I didn't love it as much as you did. I thought artistically it was fantastic. And Justice Smith, right? He was the lead.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, I thought he was great, playing the lead part. I don't know. It just maybe it was a little slow for me. Maybe it was just the ending felt like it was very abrupt. But I didn't think it was bad, but I wouldn't say like it made my top 10 or even my honorable mentions, to be honest.
Oh, wow. Okay. We all have our preferences. Um, are there any before we go? Is there any movie you'd like to mention that were like on your honorable mentions or almost made your top 10 list? And
I have, let me see. There's actually like 6 movies that didn't make it that are all in my honorable mentions.
okay,
So I'll just run by them real quick. One is Superman, the Christopher Reeve story,
okay,
uh, because I watched that right after the election when I was in a very depressed state. And granted, Christopher Reeve's life didn't end, happily, but the story alone of a guy that was an icon in cinema because of Superman and then becomes an icon in real life as a champion for the paralyzed and the disabled really gave me this odd sense of hope that even in our darkest times and our darkest hours, we could still figuratively stand up and take action when we're on our lowest, that we can move forward. And I think he really gave me some sense of hope, even in this particular moment, that we could get through anything, no matter how dire the situation is. So that's one. Another we reviewed Transformers 1, which again, a movie that was terribly marketed, but ends up being fantastic and definitely one of the better Transformers movies and the best thing since the 86 animated film, just in terms of its storytelling with the origin tale of Optimus Prime and Megatron, their friendship before it went south. And it's not done in a very dumb way. It's got humor, but it's very much in line with the Transformers cartoons that we grew up with, and even some of the Marvel comics that people may or may not have read that I think added more substance to the toy line. Hitman with Glenn Powell was another nice surprise for me. Again, another guy that is showing he could be a little bit versatile, and I like that that story didn't play so on the nose as well, and that Adriana Jonah is delish to look at. Um, Monkey Man, I think, is highly underrated as well. That I was surprised that hasn't made a lot of top tens this year, given that Propel directing and acting in it, which in itself, as I know personally, is very tough to do. He pulled it off, and I want to see him do more. The Fall Guy, I felt more people needed to see. That's another one that, yeah, it's based on a Lee Majors show, but at least this one really is a tribute to the stunt community. It had a decent story and it was funny. Again, the marketing ruined this film because I think everybody expected it was going to be like a romancing the stone type of movie, and it wasn't. And I thought Gosling was excellent playing Colt Seavers. And one that was gonna make my top 10, but I just had a hard time keeping it there was Rebel Ridge. Aaron Pierre is a star. Don Johnson was badass as the villain, being a racist sheriff. It had such the homage to First Blood. It's not even funny, but it plays. And I just think the overall execution was really amazing on that. And again, another movie that I think more people need to see on Netflix. And definitely, I would say that's the best action movie of the year compared to even the ones that are in my top 10. It didn't make my top 10 because nostalgia for me with Beverly Hills Cop, I had to throw it in there.
okay. I'll mention some of mine. Really, the second half of my list. Hitman was definitely on my second half of the list. Also, I just love the writing of it. Love Lies Bleeding. That was my number 11, as I told you. Um, I thought more people should have seen Strange Darling with Willa Fitzgerald, Kyle Gallner, and cinematography by Giovanni Ribisi. Other than the Giovanni Ribisi, I just love the way the film is told. I don't want to get into any spoilers, but it is shocking from what you expect. And it's the first time I've seen Barbara Hershey on screen in quite a few years, and Ed Begley Jr. It almost felt like we were in the 1980s and it was Meet the Applegates again. Um, I Am Celine Dion. That I don't know, man. That was like I think was one of the best documentaries I saw that year because I know who Celine Dion is, obviously, but I'm not like one of these huge fans. But after watching the documentary and what she's gone through, what she's going through, oh man, it just made me like a huge fan and like I want to honor her even more. So I have to say it was very strong. A Different Man with Sebastian Stan, which I thought he would get the nomination for more for this film than, the Donald Trump The Apprentice movie. But this one is good. It's weird, but in a good weird, but you don't exactly know where it's going. It's a very dark comedy. I think you'd like it because the actress from The Worst Person in the World, she's the female lead in this film. And it focuses on, a lot of disabled people more than most Hollywood or even independent films are willing to go to. And I don't know, I just really like, and there's a third act cameo that's just so like hilarious to me. I'm not gonna ruin it. I also have Will and Harper with Will Ferrell and his writing, I guess, partner, writing friend from his SNL days and Harper's transition into becoming a woman. And they take a road trip and just the general reaction and the fears that go along with it. It might have been powerful more now with Trump in the office, and how much he obviously does not like trans or anything different than white males. Um, yeah, as you can see, my second half of my list has a lot of dots. Um, The People's Joker, I have down there. That's by a trans filmmaker who basically was trying to parody the comedy scene and being a trans person, but using it through the prism of Batman and DC. So I thought that was a genius film. Here's a film. Now, this is the one that probably gets you pissed off at me as well as the fans watching. Furiosa. I liked it. My problem with Furiosa is I think it needed a stronger story. But those action sequences, come on. You're
Oh
not
yeah, the action's very good.
Yeah, you're not gonna see anything as polished or just so visually shot and inventive as those. So I think maybe I liked it more for that. I didn't even mind the first, I guess, 30 minutes more when Furiosa's a little child and we're introduced to like Chris Hemsworth's character and all that. Once it became Anya Taylor-Joy, it's the action sequences after that keep the film afloat. But story-wise, I liked it up till then. So I put that on one of the films. I think more people should see. Again, it's not Fury Road, but I think it's a fine continuation, even though kind of a prequel. So, but those are the ones I'm going to mention on the show that I think all of you should check out. That didn't make our top 10, but almost. So that ends our top films of 2024 episode. But as you know, we always have unfinished business out there. So I have to ask you, other than the films we just named, have you seen The Wild Robot? If not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome. What movie would you like to recommend other than the films we already talked about, Andre?
Have you seen Luther, the Luther Vandross documentary? If not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome.
I want to. It's just so hard to find. So that ends this episode for us, folks, and we'll be back soon.
If you like this review, please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.